game I thought was so instructive. So let's have a look at it. Right, everyone. My opponent went e4, I went e5, knight f3, knight c6. I went a6, which is what Jan Gustafsson recommends. So far, it's the main line of the Spanish. This is, I think, the second most popular opening in chess in general. It's very important not to castle here, because then bishop takes c6, followed by knight takes e5, wins a pawn for white actually, which is why squeezing in the move b5 prior to castling is essential. My opponent went c3, and of course I don't want to be tortured in the Spanish with d6, so I went for d5. This is what we call the Marhsall. A pawn is sacrificed, but black gets a lot of compensation and play on the king's side in return. d4, this is one of the main lines. Here the idea is to go bishop d6, threaten, and then queen h4, threatening to take on h2, so g3 is forced, queen h3. Bishop e3, and here Jan Gustafsson recommends rook a7 with the idea of rook e7 actually. Knight d2 is the main line. Here bishop g4, queen c2, bishop f5 is the way to go. And here I have a repetition by moves, but I wanted to play for the win with rook e7, and apparently it was a bad move. Yeah, I felt as if I didn't have enough compensation. So what do I have to go for the repetition? That's the question. Or can I take on e3? Yeah, but in that case, yeah, it seems as if I don't have enough compensation actually, and I might have to go for the repetition with bishop g4. I didn't want a draw though, so I went rook e7, and here after a4 I reacted with the very typical way of reacting in this position, b4, because now the c3 pawn becomes kind of weak. And here I didn't think of bishop c8, of course, defending on a6. Instead I gave up a pawn, and I probably don't have enough compensation for it, so now I'm much worse. I have a tiny bit of compensation, but not enough for the 2 pawns. Try to go h5, but now I'm just down 3 pawns, and it seems as if I don't have enough compensation at all. I didn't want to trade queens, so I went queen g3. My opponent really wanted to trade queens, but first he had to give up a pawn to do this. Then he went knight c4, bishop c7, bishop f5. Here I've already established some compensation for the deficit of 2 pawns, but not nearly enough. I didn't notice I could take on g3. Why is this so great? Let's say my opponent simply recaptures. Then I have rook e2 winning the game, which I didn't realize. Wow. Yeah, then I should have taken on g3. Yeah, this I guess I should have considered taking on g3 much more than I did in the game. Let's go now. Yeah, I just went rook f6 attacking this pawn, but then he just defended with a tempi with knight g4, and I really achieved nothing. And here once again I could have taken, and then gone rook e2, but instead I went rook e7, and now I'm still a little bit worse. But now I've suddenly got a lot of compensation actually. I tried bishop f5, but bishop e4 intending bishop g2 would have been a bit better, I guess. Let's see what happens after a move like a5, trying to push the pawn. Bishop g2 check, king h4. Then rook e4, threatening bishop f3. Let's say my opponent tries bishop f4, bishop d8, king a. Yeah, it seems as if the king is not gonna be too happy on h5. And wow, the computer sees mate. Well, at the moment I'm threatening stuff with f5, so this is very good for me. Yeah, I know, Halvard HF, I shouldn't be missing such stuff. Noam, can I make a follower-only chat? I don't know, doesn't really matter, Emily. You can do it if you want, but I don't think it matters. Yeah, and here I should obviously have gone bishop a5, keeping the bishop on the board, blocking this pawn. But instead I took on f4, and now my opponent has a very powerful a-pawn. And he would have been much better actually had he pushed his a-pawn. Instead he got distracted by going for silly tricks. But this is something I want to briefly mention. That okay, my opponent is asking me if I can speak Russian. I don't know, should I speak Russian, guys? I don't know. Well, anyways, this is something I want to mention. My opponent went rook g1, which is a silly trick. He wants to go knight h6, but of course, after I avoid it with king f8, but he doesn't achieve anything. If I'm not careful and go rook a3, the knight h6 wins the game. But he shouldn't have gone for this trick with rook g1. even though it looks fancy, needs to think, aha, my opponent can just go king f8, and I achieve nothing in this position. Which is why just pushing the a pawn would probably have won the game instead. And okay, now after king g5, bishop d7, it's roughly equal, and then my opponent blunders a piece, and I'm much better suddenly. And here I need to go king g8 to try and preserve the g-pawn. But I blitzed out king e8. It's very hard to explain why, but this was a bad move. Tricks is for kids, exactly, Halva Troef. That's a good point there. And after king g6, this is where the fun stuff begins. We get an endgame, rook, king, rook, and a bishop against the king and a rook. Okay, I win the pawn. And then now I need to try and press my opponent's king towards the edge of the board. That's the first part, of course. Rook f2, rook g8, king f6, rook g. And here, yeah, it would have been a bit more accurate to go king g5, actually. Sorry, I meant king e7, preventing my opponent from going king f2. Though here my opponent can employ the defense, the second rank defense with rook e2, and this is actually a pretty unbreakable fortress. This is a very important defensive mechanism, the second rank defense, keeping the rook on the second rank. And now it's not so easy for black to progress. Let's say black tries to play rook here and rook there. Let's see what will happen. I think white can actually just go, yeah, rook e5, very important move, because now we're ready to meet rook g8 with king f6, and it's not easy to progress here at all. So the second rank defense, remember that, kids and adults, everyone who's watching this, second rank defense for the win. But maybe he is a kid who knows, maybe Halva Troef. Yeah, second rank defense for the win, Halva Troef. Anyways, I played a bit inaccurately, allowed my opponent to establish something resilient of the third rank defense, though of course it's not unbreakable. And here we go, now I have pushed my opponent's king a bit far back. And here I thought that my opponent could easily be losing. But apparently everything is holding on here. Yeah, and here my opponent should have gone rook c4. I think actually rook here might be losing due to bishop d3. No, it doesn't. You can just go back with a check. Yeah, that's important. That's an important detail, guys. In that case, I suspect it actually was it wasn't winning. But my opponent, as often happens when you're under pressure, blundered checkmate in one. He made a mistake.